Hi Riel, and welcome to Be or Belong podcast. Thank you so much for being my first guest. So you're self-described as a actor, writer, mental health advocate, and host of the Cup of Tea talk show, right? So
Yeah.
Today we're here to talk about why, or being your authentic self, and basically not being everyone's cup of tea. I wanted to start by asking about you and about you've just written or almost released a film called Save Me From Myself, correct? So tell us a bit about that and what inspired you to create that, I guess.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I firstly want to say thank you so much for this whole thing. I mean, listen, this is crazy. Congratulations. Okay, that's what I want to say.
Thanks.
Congratulations to Be or Belong. Great name, by the way. Fantastic name. Very thought-provoking name. And I'm so happy for you that you're starting this podcast. And oh man, it is clear as day that you are absolutely gonna just knock it out of the park with this podcast. So
thanks.
massive congratulations to you. And I'm just so happy to be here. So yeah, thank you. Yes, correct. My name is Riel, actor, writer, mental health advocate, podcaster. Save Me From Myself is, well, I'll just give you a bit of background very, very quickly. I studied law at university, soon discovered that it wasn't for me, not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life per se. Knew that I had a creative essence about me that I really wanted to explore to some degree. I just didn't know to what degree yet or what variant I wanted to explore creatively. Music, film, I tried everything. Dancing, which was a shambles. It landed on acting. That was, I think it just comes from like me and my friends, like just messing around somewhere and just like pretending to like rob a bank, and just playing out a scene like in a park somewhere, and just like excitement came with that. And I just think I always sort of, that always kind of stuck with me, that feeling of freedom. And, so it winds up being acting. Oh man, if we had a lot of time, I'd probably talk to you about one of my first auditions, shambles.
Please, I want to hear it. Tell me.
Oh no. Okay, well, basically, I just got there. This is my first ever audition. No clue what I'm doing. So I get there, and before I go in, I'm absolutely shaking with nerves. And before I go in, I'm like, I have to watch this. Like, I was thinking about turning around and just leaving because I was so nervous. And then I had to get my phone out. I wanted to go, right? But then I got my phone out and I had to start watching like motivational videos before I go in, because I was like just gonna walk away. But I was like, no, you have to do this. If this is what you want to do, you have to do it. So then I went in and it was just terrible. I just sat down the whole time. I shouldn't have sat down. I just sat down and just started reading my lines off a page like that. And I still messed up the lines. And they were just, after a while, it just didn't become an audition. It was just a look of pity, like, this guy, I'm so sorry you had to go through this. And so that was, it's always the first audition.
So
anyway,
when did you decide? When did you realize? Actually, I've been going the whole way through my education to do law, and that was my purpose, my direction, to be able to do something that's, quite gonna earn me good money or whatever. And then when did you suddenly think, oh, acting is? When was the point that you thought, I've got to actually be myself now and not I guess subscribe to society's standards and everything. And where was that turning point?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, one of the reasons I was attached to law in the first place, why I decided to study law, was because of the idea of being a lawyer. The kind of like lifestyle, I guess, that comes with it. Like you say, the money aspect as well, the career, what seems to be job security, everything just tied up in that sense. And I think it came when I just genuinely stopped enjoying studying it, because right. I mean, I still graduated and I went through the whole process. I'm still glad I got through it. And, I was able to go to graduation and my parents were there and everything. So that's a moment in my life, that I won't forget. But yeah, I want to answer your question very quickly. So Save Me From Myself, it was a film that I wrote when I was going through a very rough time myself mentally, very rough time. I felt a lot of internalized pressure going on in my mind. I had graduated university and I think there was a sense of just not feeling a little bit directionless. And I had I was coming off a breakup and everything. So I just had a lot of internal
uni
pressure.
1 year after, or where was the timeline of this?
Well, I graduated uni January 2018, and the breakup was June, July 2018. And then I started writing the film December. The early concepts,
Okay.
very early concepts.
And so,
December.
what was the specific like mental health crisis that you went through exactly? What were your
It
experiences?
it was it was anxiety. It was anxiety of feeling directionless. Like maybe I had fumbled the whole thing with university, and then just the general essence that comes along with a breakup of just feeling like outside of your routine. When you're with someone, you have a routine. You text them in the morning. You guys might have a phone call at lunchtime. You say good night to each other. You say good morning. You have this routine, and then kind of suddenly coming out of that, um, it definitely had an effect on me, and I'm sure it had an effect on her as well. And I think it overall, it was one of the first times that I really experienced this feeling of directionless because I didn't have university to occupy myself anymore. And I had a job that I really didn't want to be doing. And you just have all these internalized emotions, and I just didn't know where to go with them. So the short story is just that, I put pen to paper because I really started to think like there's so many people across the world that maybe don't have someone to talk to about this stuff. And that can just lead to, I mean, you take a guess, that can lead so many places. It's not good for people to internalize so much.
Do you feel like you're out of this crisis now, or do you still have those emotions? Because it's quite difficult to just completely heal from something that massive. Because I do feel like what you're saying about education for me is like a stream. It's like a constant stream where you go the whole way through, and then suddenly you're just let out into the sea, and that can be massive for anyone to deal with emotionally. And so then, like, does it get better?
Well, I would say that there's definitely a general feeling that when you leave uni, you can feel a little bit directionless for a while, and it can get to you. I think that's a general thing. I think everyone deals with it in a different way. For me, I think potentially it was heightened because my field that I wanted to go in was creative. There isn't exactly it's not a super like orthodox route. It's like the creative thing is like something you harness yourself. In a way. Especially doing freelance. Does it get better? Yeah, I think it can get better. Am I better? No. um, am I different? Yes. Very different. The emotions I experience are different. The feelings and the essences that I have, I'm a different person in a way. And I think that's a very interesting point that we can actually speak about later. Just being different, very different, and accepting change in a way.
Okay, so if you had to talk to someone who was going through similar emotions at the moment, then what would you say to them in order to help them get out of it? Like, were there days when you felt like you just didn't want to get out of bed and there was no point in anything? And then how did you turn your life around and find that purpose?
I'll talk to you about my more recent feelings, my more recent emotions. And I would say I'll go from 2019, the panic attacks in the summer, to now, right? Because that is a phase in my life that is very prevalent now. So is there days when I don't want to get up? Yeah. One thing people need to understand about anxiety, and there's physical and psychological symptoms, so I dealt a lot with the physical when it came to the panic attacks, the increased heart rate, the shakes, the feeling in your stomach, like everything, yeah, you just the hyper sense of awareness. At the time when I started having panic attacks, I didn't necessarily think, oh, this is bugging me,
Yeah.
this is bugging me, that is bugging me, and it just happened, and then it just spirals all these thoughts, and it was horrible, to be honest. And to this day, I still have tremors and whatnot. And you asked me what would I say to someone. I would say, oh my days, this is maybe too advanced, right? But okay, I'm just going to tell you this. This is something that I would say has been, for me, this has actually been even more helpful than therapy in a way.
Okay.
One of my friends, Mithu, he came to me recently and he said, I want to start a support group where us guys, it's four of us. And fortnightly, we get on a Zoom call and we just pour out our feelings and we just speak to each other, and we each have a 20-minute segment, and we just say exactly how we can say whatever we want, and there's no judgments. How have we been feeling for the past 2 weeks? What's been on our mind, how we're feeling. Absolutely, you can pour your heart out. You can say positive things. You can say whatever you want, and no judgments are allowed. And then we go around in a circle, and just if anyone has any comments on what you've said, that's absolutely fine. If they don't, that's absolutely fine. They're just there for you. You know, you have that 20 minutes to say exactly what you feel. And last time I went off. I went off. So I would say, you know, if anyone asks me anything to do with you know, managing their anxiety, getting their feelings out there. If you feel like you're resisting the emotions, resisting the panic attacks, resisting the negative thoughts, a good start would be to, instead of resist, to accept and then begin to manage, instead of trying to push them away, accept them as part of you and then work on management, which is a different thing. But that's what I would say, you know.
Thank you. That's really honest. And also, the support group sounds amazing in terms of, because I think it's a very new age thing for men to do, really. And so, how did it feel going through that as a man as well? Did you, and how did you actually approach your friends and say, was it you who came up with the idea?
No, I didn't come up with the idea. I can't take that. My friend came up with it. My friend is a spiritual coach. He's a transformational coach. I have a lot of friends that are very spiritual, very they're coaches. They're in that world. How does it feel as a guy to do it? It feels great. It feels great. It feels liberating. You know, I don't really think in terms of like I'm a guy, but I just have to say it. For me, it feels great to do it. You know, it's just really, I feel like it's who I am to be quite expressive and to say how I feel. And like I've been on Clubhouse recently, and I've been saying like joining the mental health groups and stuff like that, and they ain't ready for me. I'm just keeping it real.
Clubhouse is the best.
They ain't ready for me. They're like, when I stop speaking, they're like,
is he done? Yeah.
Yeah, this guy, whoa. You know, I've just been keeping it real. So if I say I'm accepting the things that I feel negatively about, and instead of not talking about them, internalizing it, I'm saying it. And to many people, that isn't what the culture and the society wants to hear. They want to hear positive. They want to hear the opposite. They want to hear, I'm not where I am, but I'm going to get there. You know, I need to do that. You know, that's what the general essence is on social media. But I've almost been, it sounds a little bit controversial, but I've been veering away from that slightly and unapologetically saying how I really, really do feel, and not being sorry for that. Because the act of saying it actually helps, because it's management, it's acceptance, instead of resisting it and then dealing with it internally with an increased heart rate, you know?
Yeah, and I guess that also links to being authentic, because I guess some people would associate being authentic with speaking your truth. And I think speaking your truth can be really liberating. But then do you think that, so one area of it is speaking your truth, but then another area of it is who am I, and like becoming your true self. And in some ways, I feel like the whole rhetoric around authenticity can be quite damaging, because for me, it's a bit like, I actually thought of this earlier, it's a bit like chasing a ghost, because you are trying to find yourself and you're getting closer and closer and closer, and then you open the box and there's nothing in there, because you're like, what actually am I? And no one really knows who they are. So you're kind of like, you've got a purpose that is purposeless. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I mean, I have nothing to say, because you said exactly what I would say. That is such a good point. I mean, you've just put it in a way that, you know, I wouldn't be able to put it. That is, yeah, you said it. I think that is a very easy thing to advise someone, right? Just be yourself, you know? But then if you actually question them and say, well, what does that mean? And then slightly it gets a bit more, the lines become a little bit more blurred. What you think is authentic is extremely volatile. What you defined as authentic at the age of 20, 21 is going to be very different from what you define as authentic when you're 28, 29, 30. It's an argument to define being authentic as being in a situation where where your actions and what you do is not influenced by external influence, by external sources. You know, so let's say a lady comes up to me and asks my name, right? And I go, oh, hi, I'm Riel, you know? But now let's say another lady comes up to me and I don't know, I really like want to impress her or something. And she's like, oh, what's your name? I'm like, I'm Riel, you know? And then I'm walking away like, oh, that was so like, I was so awkward or whatever. You know, I would be like, oh, I wish I was more myself. In that moment, you'd probably walk away saying to myself like, oh, I wasn't myself because I was influenced by her being there and my emotions. That I didn't react how I want to be. But I didn't think about my reaction. I was like, oh, I'm Riel. You know, I didn't think about it. I mean, one would argue that is probably more authentic than you trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm Riel, and resisting how you feel.
Letting it
Maybe.
happen and observing, I guess, is probably...
Yeah, exactly.
In a way, we have to accept that humans are social beings, so we're always going to be influenced by the people around us, and I don't really believe that we are ourselves because we've been influenced by so many different people that we're basically an amalgamation of experiences and different people's opinions, and we've put them together in our own way, but we can't detach ourselves from others. So then to be like, being authentic is not caring at all what other people think. I think there's a place for it, because I think you shouldn't care as much as a lot of people do, but then in another way you have to be kind to yourself. And if you ask a group of like year 1 children, like who's the best at tennis, all of them will put their hand up. And then you go to a class of like year 4 children and you say who's the best at tennis, and they'll all point to this one kid, and they'll all be thinking about what other people think and what who's actually the best and all of that. And I'm just wondering, like, why do you think that's completely knocked out of us? Our like creativity and license to be authentic that's there from so young when we're children. Why does that suddenly disappear?
Oh man, that's a really, really good question. I think the short answer is life. Life gets to you. That's a great question. I would say, as you go through life, you experience so many different sources of influence. This childish innocence of just, almost that is you feel like that's your true self, like you're not thinking analytically about everything like you do as an adult. When you're that young, you almost just work on instinct, And
what you were saying about, the second version of your speaking to a woman that you find attractive or whatever, that one, if you accept that you've acted in that way and you walk away and you're like, I've done that, then you're actually not caring about how the other person has received it. And so then that is authentic, I guess, because you're not caring about what other people think so much.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time you make this all up in your mind. You create scenarios in your mind where people are judging you. So if you feel judged, not you're judged, if you feel judged from something you've done in the past, you might do it in a different way after you've looked back on it in retrospect, So yeah, I think that's a really interesting
I think also, like, after you feel judged, then you have the choice, which is like the podcast says, like, you have the choice whether to be or to belong. You have a choice whether you want to fit in and to not do, like, to accept that judgment and be like, I definitely shouldn't go there then. Or you have a choice to just be and to do it because you feel like you want to do it. But in terms of, like, being true to yourself, what would you say yourself is? Like, do you know yourself?
No. I think that's a really good question. If I'm looking at something and thinking, was that my true self, or was I my true self there? Just me, internally, me already is externally influenced by so many other things, right? So in a situation where I might be where I'm unhappy that I was externally influenced by something consciously, I need to realize that subconsciously I'm already influenced by so many other things. So influence is prevalent in my life everywhere.
So because the self is seen to be quite like stagnant, stable, and something deep within you that doesn't change over time, sometimes if you try and be authentic, you're then stopping yourself from growing, because you see yourself as molded by all these experiences, like you're saying, from your childhood, from everywhere in your life, and then you're thinking, I need to be true to myself. But that doesn't give you the opportunity for change. So the way that I would see, like, the soul would be as something malleable and changing over time. And because I feel like everyone can reinvent themselves whenever they want, and nothing is fixed. There's even like epigenetics, which is, I don't know if you...
Yeah, I have. Yeah, my friend told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, just for anyone who doesn't know, it's like how you can change your own genetics through actions that you do throughout your life. It's a new body of research that's just found out that your genetics aren't actually fixed, and that they are open to change through nature.
That is absolutely mad. My friend told me about epigenetics, and then I said to him, well, what if I want to be able to sing then? How would I change? How would I... I said, if I want to be a singer, can I then Like, can I then have a nice voice? How does that work?
You
Because
know,
I don't understand
I'd
it. I
love
don't.
that. I'd love to know the answer.
I'm only just exploring it myself
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah,
You
I'll
don't
get
know
back
the answer
to
to that one yet.
you." I can't remember what he said. I think he said it is possible. It is possible in some capacity, but I can't remember what he said. But that was my question. You know,
Fair
how
enough.
do I become a singer? Because I know a lot of people that I just can't see it happening, including myself. Can you
I
sing?
love that. I can sing a bit. I used to do a bit. I used to love acting and singing and everything. And you know, this is actually a bit similar to me because when I was younger, I used to always act. I was a very strange child actually. I was just crazy like all the time. I was on a walk with my friend yesterday actually, and she was saying to me, I always just wanted to be your friend because you were so crazy and you didn't care about what anyone thought. And I think that only left me at quite an old age. So maybe I was in like year 10 or something when I started to care about what people thought or what I looked like and everything. And then that natural progression, actually looking back on it, is when I stopped being so good at acting and singing because I think I had more reservations about what people were thinking of me. So in the past, I would have been like absolutely doing the like ugly hobo man acting, but you seem to have like reconnected with that spirit that you had at school, I guess, of acting.
No, no, no. I never had a spirit for acting at
Oh,
school.
really?
No, no, I wasn't. I really didn't channel any creative energy until 19. I'm 24 now. You know, I was just a muppet for when I was 18 at university, just like just
Oh,
an
actually,
absolute.
so we didn't actually say like, tell me about Save Me From Yourself. What? How did you tell us about
Ah,
that film?
Save Me From Myself is um I I sent out some hints about my mental health, right, to certain people, um, and they weren't always picked up, right. That might be me making it too subtle. I think there's sometimes when I haven't made it so subtle, but I think what I really thought about and what I really considered is that there's still some people that really don't take mental health too seriously.
Are you
You know,
talking about like family members?
no, not family, not family. Just people, just generally
General.
speaking. It could be anyone. It really could be anyone. Because it was a general essence, where I was just in this place in my life where certain hints were going off to people, and they just weren't really catching on to them. And I think my I started to really consider, like, yeah, not everyone. There's a certain taboo around mental health still. And look, I think a lot more people are obviously talking about mental health, but I think there's still a select amount of people that don't understand the severity of just how bad things can get. The key here is internalizing all of it, right? Because you feel like you won't have a good reception if you were to come out with it, or you feel like you'll be judged for that, or people will see you differently, right? So the film is really about challenging the perspective that mental health is just all in your head, or it's just a phase in your life, and you'll get over it soon, or don't think about it, right? Just don't worry about it, mate. And the film is about I play Oliver, who an old man comes across Oliver one day as he's slumped up against the floor, drunken. He's drunken, Oliver. He's drinking and whatnot. Drunken. He's drunken.
He's drunk.
Is that a word? Drunken? That's not a word, is it?
No,
Drunken?
drunk. Drunk. He's drunk.
Yeah, drunken young man. That is a word, is it not? No.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
stop
yeah, yeah.
speaking.
That makes sense.
I'm gonna stop speaking.
We're here
Okay,
for.
so the old man is walking home one day and he comes across him. And what seems to be, and they engage in a dialogue. The old man goes up to investigate why this guy is just slumped up against the wall here, just looking like, well, So he goes to almost offer him help, the old man. He goes to offer Oliver help. The story turns into this almost unorthodox therapy session for Oliver. The old man discovers a very a truth about Oliver's past that is very terrifying and revealing. It's to do with his neglect of his girlfriend's mental health issues, his neglect of her opening up to him, and the story is surrounding that. Really fumbled my way through that.
No,
Like,
it makes
how
sense.
can I not give this away? Like, I'm like dodging the lasers.
I think
like.
there are hints in the trailer as to what happens to the girlfriend and everything like that. So do you identify with Oliver particularly, or was it more universal?
I mean, Oliver deals with something very specific, right? But there's a universal essence there where you don't want to open up. You resist opening up. So for me, it was just the fear of, it was the unknown. I didn't know how things were going to work out if I was to open up about how I was feeling,
Right.
so I didn't have any specific attachment to what was going to happen. It was just like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know. And then eventually I did. I came out on social media and I just said, look, this is what I've been dealing with, anxiety, yada, yada, yada. And the response was just overwhelming. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's massively admirable for you to come out like that, because I think even it's really difficult for someone to talk about mental health to their friends. So for you to speak to your thousands of followers and to be really honest about how you're feeling while also being successful and doing creative things in a world that wants you to do things that are much more narrow down the line, law, get a job, is very like in a way the definition of what people would deem authentic.
Yes, absolutely,
But
absolutely.
like,
I mean,
like what is it like being, or at the moment being authentic and not fitting into society standards? Surely there's always a pull to that,
oh, do you know what? I think you're too kind to say that. I think you're way too kind. I don't, I'm always on a journey, so by no means am I this authentic guy just yet. I mean, that's crazy to think that someone can even be that. But, I mean, something that has given me a sense of control, and it is definitely saying certain things that maybe you wouldn't say, like speaking about certain variants of my life that I'm not happy with, and, speaking about it in a cathartic, negative way, like it really is a catharsis. That's a perfect word. It's a catharsis for me to speak almost, and I know people say, speak negative, speak positive, but, getting on those support calls, it's been very, people would look at that and say that's very negative. But for me, it's a catharsis. If we ever get on another call, we could talk about my ordeal with panic attacks. That is a whole situation. Oh my gosh. Yeah, speaking more about it feels liberating.
Tell me a little bit about it. What, like, where did you have them? Did you start having them at home, or was it in a public place? Was it?
It was in a public place.
How bad did it get with mental health?
It was in a public place. So, okay, I'm just going to speak very authentically here, and just say it how it is. I don't want to bring anyone down, but all I can tell you is my true experience.
You'll probably build them up by being able to relate, to be honest.
Yeah. What happened is I woke up one day, and I just felt terrible. I just felt absolutely terrible. And I had to go out. And I woke up, and Isabella, when I tell you, it was completely random, this feeling that I had. Completely random. I never experienced any feeling like this. Felt sick to my stomach. Heartbeat was going off. Felt extremely weak, right? Just felt like I was in a daze. Heart was going. Felt like I was going to throw up. And just felt like, it's almost hard to describe, but I would say the two prevalent ones are that sickness in the stomach and like a lump in the throat, and the increased heart rate. My God, right? So I end up still going where I need to go, soldiering through, and I get to where I'm going, and I'm like, I tried to have something to eat, and I just can't eat, and it was just absolutely baffling because I just didn't know what a panic attack felt like. What I was experiencing, to give you some insight, was the onset of a panic attack. It was the onset of it. I woke up and it was coming, and tried to eat something, tried to drink something, blah blah blah. No, So I'm sitting there and then million miles an hour going, and I'm like in this surreal fugue state. Like, what is going on? You know, I'm like, I didn't think it was a heart attack. I don't know. I was just baffled. I was just going through the motion. Like in the moment, maybe you could construe it as that, but I didn't. I was just like so baffled as to what was going on. I just had no options. I was just like, what is going on? Anyway, so then I just felt really sick, like I was going to throw up. So I was like, I just need to get out of here. I just need to go. I just need to get out of here. So I just go away. And I go into the restroom and then just start throwing up. Basically, it wasn't like a lot of throw up. It was just little bits, and it just wasn't nice. I had to like stick my fingers down, and because it wasn't coming naturally, but I just felt so sick. I just had to get it out. And I'm in there, and I'm just got my hands up against it. It was like a movie, you know. I had my hands up against the thing, and I'm just breathing hard, and I'm just like, I thought maybe I was physically ill. Something was physically wrong with me. And you know, with panic attacks, I guess that is the case. But of course, that, you know, I thought that it was like a physical illness. That's what I thought. Something was going wrong. I just couldn't figure it out. And then I really just thought to myself, you know, I just kind of waddled through the day. You know, I was just like, oh, it was terrible. Anyway, no.
What?
I didn't tell anyone.
Why did you not tell anyone? Just.
I just didn't feel like there was anything anyone could do. I didn't tell anyone for a long time, actually. Only I'm telling you now.
Wait,
I'm telling you now.
How did you know that? When did you define it as a panic attack then?
Really good question. Thank you for that question. I went to the doctors and they took, and I explained it to them. And initially, so I didn't go straight away. I went shy of a month later.
Right. And had you told your friends and family or anyone before you went to the doctors? Nobody?
No.
Just booked a doctor's appointment on your own? Went?
Oh, just before I booked the doctor's appointment, that's when I told my family. Yeah. Just before. Like the 2 days before, you know, but for a month I had basically just not said anything because I thought maybe it'd go away. I thought maybe it was a one-day thing. Then I realized that it was a continuous thing, and I knew that something was going on psychologically, but I was still baffled. I just never experienced anything like this, Isabella. And anyway, so, you know, the feeling still, you know, since that day, I've never had a panic attack that big, but I have had panic attacks. Not recently, thank God. I've had certain essences of feeling unsteady, but I haven't had a panic attack, anything like that. That was just a humongous one, right? Insane. And a month after, I still had really bad essences like stomach sickness and lump in the throat, which stayed for a very long time.
What did the doctor say about it?
Well, when I went to the doctors and I described the shaking feeling and everything, and he said it could be an infection. And he gave me pills he gave me antibiotics for an infection.
Wow.
And he gave me
Did you take
a different. Yeah, I took them because I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time. And he gave me. I thought it might be. Maybe he was right. Maybe there was some infection going on. I just didn't know. And he also gave me something else for nausea, for the stomach, the sickness I was feeling. And I went through the whole process. Didn't change a thing. Nothing changed. Continuous. So then I go back to the doctors again. And they wanted to do more tests, blood tests, or whatever. And then eventually I just said, listen, doctor, do you think this could... I went to a different doctor this time. And I said, look, doctor, do you think this could be something with anxiety? Mm-hmm. And then he said, yes, it could be, because anxiety builds up acid in the stomach and it can make you feel sick or whatever it is. I can't remember the exact words. He said something like that. But I'm not sure if... I don't know to what degree doctors will usually... I don't know what doctor's relationship is with mental health. So, but I brought it up, and then he was like, yes. And then he wanted me to contact Brent Talking Therapies. And I said, okay, sure. It's like a talking therapy situation or whatever.
Had you ever had therapy before this?
No. I don't know why I needed to think about that. No, I haven't.
Quite a big thing, though. I think the first time that you go to therapy, it's a big thing to bring yourself to do that, actually. Because I think everyone can benefit from therapy, but it's the first step of going that's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the saying, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
You know, what did help me when it comes to therapy is was understanding better what your body goes through during a panic attack. You know, so it almost helped to demystify the essences of what a panic attack actually feels like. You know, like the reason your body goes into panic mode is for these certain things. Everyone has panic attacks for different reasons, right? But your body's response to what it's perceived as threat or immediate, your body needs to go in. Like she related it to like caveman times of like getting attacked by a bear and whatever, and your body going into overdrive where it's like fight or flight. You know, you have to do something now. And
really interesting. Yeah. I'm constantly astounded by like how much the mind has an effect on your body.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's a whole other conversation. I'm telling you, Isabella, that's madness.
I actually watched a documentary on mental health recently and what you can do in your life to help your body, I guess, in terms of mental health things. And one of the things that they've just created is a technique or something to when your heart rate increases massively, if you think about it in a certain way and count it, then you can actually decrease it on your own through just concentrating really hard on it.
Yeah.
So they take people who are scared of heights to the top of buildings and then try out this technique and have a heart monitor on their fingers, and then they manage to like calm themselves down. And it's really fascinating how much we can actually do in order to, But
what has been your experience with? Have you ever experienced anxiety? Or
I haven't experienced anything like this I would describe as like anxiety or depression, something diagnosable. But obviously I feel like everyone's been through their share of mental health issues because everyone has experiences in life. I've had a difficult relationship with my dad. I didn't speak to him for a year, and so then after that, then I went to therapy. I've had therapy for just I had like a tough year in my first year of uni with many different things coming together. And so then, but actually it was a gift because therapy really did help with just understanding where my emotions were coming from, how much you're actually just linked in the subconscious to childhood experiences and like linking things together that makes so much sense. But yeah.
Madness. Yeah, absolutely.
But just before we have to wrap up, what advice would you give to anyone who is starting out and wanted to do something creative, but maybe they're doing like a law degree or something?
Start a support group.
Start a support group for that.
No, that's just my advice for anything.
Really?
You know, if you
okay.
anything. No, but that was a joke. Continue.
It sounds like an incredible thing to do, though. Really, I think everyone should have one. I don't even know why I haven't thought about it before. But yeah, like if there's any like final pieces of advice that you wanted to give to anyone, or like what you see yourself in the future doing, and anything that you want to tell people about your film as well, like because I know you're setting up a crowdfunding for your final edits and things like that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. That's a really nice. By the way, you are such a natural interviewer. Oh my gosh. Great. I mean, this is not your first podcast, is it? You've got another secret podcast in an alternative universe.
I swear it is.
So a different alternative podcast to belong or to be.
Yeah, just switched around, reinvented myself.
Reinvented yourself. Your authentic self. If you're an actor and you're thinking, how can I get in this field? Or if you're struggling, saying I can't, I don't have opportunities like I did when I first started, create the opportunity, right? Create the opportunity for yourself. How do you do that? Write your own screenplay, write your own film, write your own piece of work, write your own poetry, write your own spoken word, perform it in front of a camera, get yourself some sort of setup, get yourself a ring light, get yourself a cheap camera. Record yourself, start that YouTube channel, put it on YouTube. Main thing I would say, I cannot recommend this enough. If you want to do acting, whatever, if you want to direct, right? If you want to produce and you feel like you just need a start, the story that you have on your mind, because you have a story on your mind, even if you don't get it made, write it. learn how to write a script, go on celltex.com. The script format is there. Write a story, write a short story. If you're an actor, it's not that difficult to get a film made. Just do so. I would say create the opportunity for yourself, because that is when more opportunities will find you. When you go out there and you actively do something for yourself, don't sit around waiting for an opportunity. Write something. Make yourself the lead character. Get one of your other actor friends. Film it together, right? Now you have something to show for, right? And who better to portray a character than yourself, who wrote that character and understands the emotions of that character. Right. Because that's what I did. And that's how I got my start in acting as well, right? It was terrible. My acting was absolutely a shambles. You can go and view it now. The Artist on YouTube. Shambles. Worst thing you'll ever see, right? But it gave me a start. It gave me a start in acting that I really, really needed. And I thought it was amazing when I did it. Now I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I can't delete that, because it's such a landmark in history.
Story, so leave it.
It's part of the story. It's part of the story. I have to keep it. It's just so funny. It's just so funny. I'm like,
imperfections as well. People love to see that someone's actually gone through the whole journey of life and lived a human story. People don't like to follow someone who's just, perfect. You've done a journey, and that you've now got to a place that's inspirational that they can look up to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is good. That is very good. That is very good. I have something else to say.
Okay.
This has been so fun, by the way.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed it too.
Same. Honestly, this has been so fun. This is better than my podcast, I'll tell you that much. Now, I'm going to speak more generally about if you want to do something outside of, not just acting, like if you want to do something outside of what you're doing now, right? In the creative form, whatever it is, whatever you want to do. I would say a starting process is understanding, why do you want to do that thing, right? Because without that purpose, without that direction, without that feeling of like, I'm doing this for something, it might not last as long as you want it to. It without that purpose to continuously hang on, it could become a phase. So make sure that it is what you want to do, and answer the question of why you want to do it. Do you have a clear vision for why you want to move into this field? And you don't need to have the answer. You might just feel like, oh, I might want to explore singing more, but go into that. I want to explore songwriting more. Why? What do you want to gain out of that? And I can give you mine, right? My phrase for the talk show, Cup of Tea, and my phrase that I've come up with for my life, for creative purposes, is create to inspire. Because I'm so influenced by other people's work. I'm inspired by you making a podcast. I'm inspired by other people, right? So for me, I take that, I put that I put that element, that passion into my own work. I'm like, oh, I love what that person did. That's inspired me to want to make a film. I want to inspire other people to do what they really want to do in life.
That is just the best advice you could probably give. It's like all quote worthy as well. But yeah, we'll probably have to wrap up there. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And yeah, so we've been talking about Riel and his authentic journey, or journey to authenticity, and what we think of it, and also his advice given his life experiences. So I hope that everyone who's watching or listening to this is having a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.
Absolutely.